Well, we tried to warn you, and now unfortunately here we are. There might be a nifty new way of taking firearms away from up to, or perhaps substantially more than 1 million homes in the United States. We are seeing this play out right now in the state of Michigan. What am I talking about? We're talking about extreme risk protection orders, aka red flag laws. Something has gone off the rails, assuming it ever started there in the first place. So guys, let's get into it. So what is going on in the state of Michigan? Well, here's what we've got. So these extreme risk protection orders, aka red flag laws, really quickly, if you don't remember what those are, basically there's certain criteria that are set out. If someone is a danger to themselves or others, then cops can get involved, and basically a court can go in and order the cops to go ahead, take the guns out of the home. All right, hold on to them for the pendency of the order or subject to the order, which could take, at a minimum, oftentimes months or even a year plus. This varies from state to state. I'm not too worried about focusing on Michigan because I'm using this as an example of, frankly, how these can be abused, unfortunately. But that's the gist to it. And for those of us who are in the justice system, ex-state prosecutor, criminal defense attorney, we know how insanely easy it is to get an injunction or a restraining order or something like that. If a petitioner goes into court, so that's the person who's asking to get a restraining order, and basically says the magic words of, I'm in fear for my life because they threatened to kill me or something like that. Depending upon where you are in the country, depending upon the judge or court commissioner or whoever it is that you have, it may be extraordinarily difficult to push back and win that, even if they are lying. Why? Because you've heard about the defensive practice of medicine, right? Where doctors don't want to be sued by those crazy lawyers out there who just kind of ruin everything. Not me. The other crazy ones. Where if you show up and say, hey, I've got a head issue or something like that, or I don't know, they're going to be ordering all sorts of tests, perhaps appropriately, but perhaps also out of an abundance of caution relative to whatever the complaint might be, because they don't want to miss anything. Not only, of course, to protect you, but even in cases where, you know what, this maybe was a little extra care than perhaps may have been called for, because they want to practice medicine defensively. They don't want to be sued and lose everything if they miss that zebra diagnosis. You hear the expression before, if you hear hoofbeats, think horses, not zebras, because zebras are extraordinarily rare. Right. They don't want to miss that zebra diagnosis. Now, I'm not trying to say whether or not that's the right or wrong way of practicing medicine. The simple fact is that this mindset is pervasive. Whether right or wrong, that's what it is. And I'm telling you, just as you have the defensive practice of medicine, you also have the defensive practice of law. A judge doesn't want to be the one blamed for failing to issue an injunction or a restraining order if something bad happens after that hearing, whether it's an hour, a day, a week, a month, a year down the road. Because at the end of the day, the media is going to blame, in our case, where we're talking about guns, first and foremost, the firearm. Secondly, the judge who probably failed to issue that order, regardless of the fact that, let's face it, that probably would not have changed anything in many or most cases. But just the same, judges think like this, they know this, and they will just slap these orders down. The same thing, I'm sure, happens in these extreme risk protection orders, no matter how good the intention might be from them. No judge wants to be blamed for saying no when, hey, maybe the answer should have been no for whatever particular reason is in play. Let's talk about what's coming out of Michigan. Here's what's coming out of Michigan. We have multiple cases where some child, sometimes as low as age 6, I'm going to go through 3 different cases here really quickly, is experiencing some sort of mental health issue, or they have some sort of outburst in school or to an adult, and all of a sudden, the kid is getting red flagged. But it's the parents' guns who are being taken. You heard me right. Now, we've got 2 different categories that this falls into, and I want to be very careful to make sure that these are clearly delineated for your consideration down the lens. At the end of the day, I'm reporting, I'm analyzing, you of course decide whatever it is you want to make of it. This one might be a bit divisive for the comment section, so I'm curious to hear what you all think. In one case, a Northville Township 6-year-old was said to be experiencing mental health issues and alleged that he had access to firearms. So this was a 6-year-old who claimed that he could access his parents' firearms. In another case, we've got a 10-year-old in the same township who, quote, made threats to shoot another student in school and indicated he has access to weapons, which is unsecured and is located in the basement of the minor's home, end quote. All that, by the way, you can find in a news article down in the description box down below. That's according to state police records as cited by this particular newspaper. So category 1, we've got minors who have issues, or maybe they're just spouting off whatever else the case might be, but they're claiming they have access to firearms. All right. I'm guessing that there's going to be a percentage of my viewers down the lens, let me know, who say, you know what? Maybe in this case, I get it. I think there's going to be other people who say, all right, number 1, is that a violation of law? Number 2, can't we just order the parents to have them locked up? Assuming that that kid isn't lying, by the way. Because I don't know about you, if you've been a parent or if you've been a kid, one or the other, all right? Maybe you know that 6-year-olds are not necessarily the most trustworthy creatures in the world. 10-year-olds, teenagers, especially ones perhaps with some mental health issues, and perhaps people who are making, deadly threats to others. Now, the counter argument to this is, can we afford to not take them at their word? I'm just going to play anti-gun advocate here for a moment. That's going to be what the comeback is. What do you think down in the description box down below? Is it going to be good enough to either A, just say, too bad, so sad, we're going to extreme risk protection order the kid, but leave the guns in the home. B, we're going to extreme risk protection order the kid, but order the parents, put them under a court order where they can be found in contempt or obstruction or something if they fail to keep them locked up and secured and away from the kids. So in other words, if it's not immediately on your person as a concealed carry, then hey, it has to be locked up. Or C, hey, good to take them out. Those seem to be the 3 options here that I see. But then we get to the second category. I mentioned there was 2 categories. So category 1, kid is having some issues, whether bona fide, genuine or not getting into that. But the kid's clearly having some issues, and there's a claim that they have access to firearms. Category number 2, we had a category here where the guns are still being confiscated from the home. Here we're dealing with an 8-year-old in Alger County, sorry, don't know which way it goes, who threatened to kill and attack a law enforcement officer, despite assurances from the boy's mother that her firearms were indeed locked up. So here, as I understand it, we're not dealing with a case where the kid even necessarily has made the claim they have access to firearms. They're simply saying, I'm going to go kill that person. In this particular case, it's a law enforcement officer, but it could be another student, it could be whoever. That part is kind of immaterial, all right? What we're focused on is the fact that here the parent has claimed that they are locked up, and we are also lacking the kid saying, I have access. I'm presuming the kid's saying that they have access, though, because after all, they made the threat. So let's just impute the claim to the kid of saying, I've got access to firearms. Fine. But we got the parents saying, no, they don't. Government still came in and took them. So why am I reacting the way that I'm reacting? Why am I trying to bring this to your attention? Well, number 1, this is, again, when you take my background into this, I know how incredibly easy many of these orders are to get. There are some portions of due process here where you can petition to have a hearing. I've done other videos where I've covered how that's been turning out. Again, there's not a lot of public data on this, but I've done deep dives into some studies that analyze this. I think they were from California. If you're interested, I can refresh that and get a new video out. Let me know down in the comment section down below. But from a study published on the National Library of Medicine website, linked in the description box down below, what I found interesting was this. Respondents from 35% of homes with children younger than 18, so we're talking about folks representing more than 22 million children in more than 11 million homes. So 35% of the respondents with basically homes with kids said that they have at least one firearm or more in their home. Now we combine this with another study also linked down in the description box below that said that 20% of children reported seriously considering attempting suicide in the past year. 16% reported making a suicide plan in the last year, and 9% reported attempting suicide in the past year. 8.9% of all children ages 12 to 17 have been diagnosed with depression. Again, all those are linked down in the description box down below. So you can start to see how all these pieces start to move together. We've got perhaps upwards of 20% of children are saying that they've considered or thought about suicide. We've got 35% of homes with children have at least one firearm. So we could have potentially up to 20% of homes, of the 11 million homes, up to 20%. So we're talking about, give or take, something on the order of over 2 million homes could be subject to extreme risk protection orders if these were nationalized, if you had extreme risk protection orders, if you had red flag laws across all 50 states, right? If they are being enforced the way that they are here, where the cops are not asking questions, it doesn't matter what the parents say, it doesn't matter what the evidence might be, there doesn't seem to be any follow-up or inquiry to whether or not the kid has access. If the kid makes the claim, the parents are SOL. They are just shoot out of luck, okay? It's a family program. We have to watch how these trends are developing or being treated at the state level, even if you do not live in Michigan, as I do not as a Wisconsinite. What happens in Michigan today will happen in Texas, Wyoming, Montana, wherever it is you are, Florida, Wisconsin, and so forth, at some point in the future. The laws vary from state to state, but their wording and their application, they tend to rhyme closely. We have to take this, learn from it, and make sure this information gets out there so people understand here are abuses that are happening. These are loopholes that need to be addressed to make sure that it does not go any further. So this one could be really interesting. We've got, again, those 3 different categories I mentioned before of take the guns, make sure that they're locked up, or doesn't matter. Hey, the kid's the kid, whatever. Let me know which side you're on. I'm very curious to see what the comments section says about this. Be sure to hit that like button if you've not already done so. I appreciate you sticking around this long in the video. Let's close out with our ever popular quote of the day. And today we have one of the all-time bests, Marcus Aurelius, who wrote, quote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." We all heard some permutation of that. We're going back to one of the originals. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. I look forward to seeing the comments. Take care. Thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. If you enjoyed this one, please feel free to check out some of our other great content, and we'll see you in the next one.